Hey, what's going on, everyone? Robert from the Remote Control here. And I broke Colton. So on this special little episode here, as we're gearing up towards Halloween, we wanted to do a couple of special episodes where we talk about some of our favorite horror movies.
Whoa!
So this week we're going to talk about our top 10 horror films. This is going to be anything that's in the horror genre at all. It was free game. Colton's got a top 10 list. I've got a top 10 list, and that's what we're going to do.
And we're going to mix top 10s to make a baby top 10 list.
Oh, that'd be pretty hot, man.
Oh, yeah.
So, I will let Colton start off with his number 10.
Coming in at number 10. 10. The original Friday.
Okay, my sound effects are going crazy now.
A fucking dinosaur fucking a dog? What the fuck?
All right, so what's your number 10? Go for it, man.
Number 10. The original Friday the 13th.
Why?
I don't know. It's just a classic. It's a cult classic.
Cult classic? I mean, come on. You got to give more reason to it. Like,
No,
did it frighten you as a kid, or?
I don't know. I'm not really easily scared. I was never easily scared.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, I like it. It has a nice premise. Like Grimace. There was a rhyme. I don't know.
So, why the original? What about the original?
Because when we do our next top 10 list, you'll see why.
Okay.
It's actually number 10 on my other one. Because, like, if any horror film does a sequel, they normally are awful.
Yeah. There's
a few series that does it, which I put in this list. So, like, the first one's the only good one, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, what did it do that stuck out to you, though? Like, what did it change in the genre of horror films?
It kind of introduced Rob Zombie to actually being a real horror film maker later on down the road, but I don't know. It kind of set the tone for horror films. Like, this was back when, like, horror started becoming an actual thing. Like, when it became, isn't it technically a slasher film?
It is a slasher film, yes.
So, like, it was, like, one of the first slasher films.
Early on.
Yeah, that were, like, graphic, not, like, 50s, like, off-camera.
One of the actual first, and I didn't make my list, I don't know if it made yours, but one of the first was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
But I'm not going to get into that. My number 10, however, we'll just jump to me now because you didn't have much to say about yours. My number 10 is the 1996 Wes Craven classic Scream. I tell you what, I don't have a Scream. Yeah, there we go. That works. Or what's this? Okay. So Scream, I felt, was an excellent film. I was 10 years old when that movie came out. So when I saw it...
I was -3.
It added a little something to... You weren't -3? It was 1996.
I was negative something. Maybe a couple months. It came out probably around Halloween. I was like 4 months old.
But it to me, it added a little bit to the slasher genre to the point where this could happen. Like, you sit there and think about some of the other ones. My next one we'll get into as well. But a lot of the other films, like Friday the 13th, there's just Texas Chainsaw Massacre. While all that stuff could possibly seem plausible,
yes,
this Scream seemed real.
But yeah,
and what I think
it's still a very plausible thing.
Yeah, and what I think was great what they did with the marketing. I mean, they got an actress like Drew Barrymore, who at the time was just really booming on the scene, and she's pictured on the front cover, big, everything like that, and she lasted no more than 8 minutes of screen time. Like, she was gone like that, and that was just like, holy shit, they had Drew Barrymore and they killed her that quickly. That's crazy. Like, she's a big actress. You're gonna pay that money, kill her off. But that was the beauty of that movie, because it was just like, holy shit.
Yeah, they're willing to blow millions to kill her off. They're
going to go all out with it. Plus the cast, you have Courtney Cox in it. You have David Arquette, and what's her name? Neve Campbell. You have an all-star cast that's in this movie. And while the sequels weren't as good, and I know that you talked about getting into that eventually, I think the sequels are pretty good with this movie. I saw what was it, Scream 4 that came out probably about 5 years ago. It wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible.
Yeah, it was one of those movies you can actually sit and watch.
Exactly, I was able to watch it. And it was what it was. So Scream is my number 10. Moving on to your number 9. What is this? Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to go with sound effects throughout the whole thing because I found this thing, so I want to use it.
Sorry, I just farted really loud into the mic. Coming in at number 9, I have the Blair Witch Project, the original one. It's one of my first horror movies I've ever watched. I loved it as a kid.
You would have been like 3 when that movie came out.
I know. Thank you, Mom. But no, I really just, it's one of those ones that it's more of a sentimental thing than it actually being like a horror film to me. That and like the whole lore behind, the Blair Witch of the Black Hills or something along those lines. Yeah. I can't remember exactly right now, but there's a lot of lore to it that not the second one, but the more recent one actually builds up to it. The more recent one's a direct sequel to the first one, and it's pretty cool that they build on top of it.
Yeah, Blair Witch for me, I remember seeing it when I was young. I would have been like 13, 14 years old. And when I watched it, it did frighten me.
I mean, don't get me, it does have its moments.
Because, again, I think it was just the age I was. It was more along the lines of like, was it a real story? Was it not a real story? Because at my age, at 12, 13, 14 years old, I kind of fell for it a little bit. Sorry, I did.
2 things. I forgot to mention this when you were talking about Scream. Wes Craven and who directed it? Not direct. They don't own the rights to that mask.
Okay.
They went to a mask store, found the mask, thought it would fit. So the guy who actually owned the mask store owns the rights to the mask.
Oh, really?
So he got I think a 20% cut of the film.
It's funny. I want to say it was like 97, 98. I wanted to be Ghostface from Scream. And it took my brother, I think he shopped at like 3 or 4 different Halloween stores till he could find it. Because for like 2 or 3 years after Scream came out,
you
couldn't find the Ghostface mask anywhere. So I was so pumped whenever he got it, and I got to be Ghostface one year. But that's beside the point.
And with
back to Blair Witch,
the Blair Witch Project, the promotional things for it, the actors when they when the trailer that you released like a week or 2 before, they actually put out posters of the 3 actors, or 2 actors, 1 actress. That were missing. They were missing posters. So when you saw the film, you're like, "Oh shit, are they really lost?" Yeah.
No, like I said, as a kid, I fell for it.
Yeah, like the promotion was really good too.
Because I really thought it was a documentary, and I was like,
yeah.
But they would never put a documentary like that on film or release.
They would never release it to the public.
Yeah,
well, not direct footage like that.
Yeah, so I mean, but again, that was a different time. It was the internet wasn't big. I mean, it was starting to get there, but it wasn't like it is today. It was things were very different, and that's why it worked.
Yeah, it was one of the first found footage films that were semi-successful.
Yeah, and again, and it cost them like $10 to make. I mean, it was some ridiculous amount of money to make it, and. So the ridiculously low amount of money to make it, so they made a bunch of money.
And then follows the stereotype. The second one sucked.
Yeah.
Second one had nothing to do with the first one at all.
And jumping to my number 9.
Yes.
No. Is
Bob just jacked off a dude?
Actually, 2 movies. I'm going to put these both together because I truly love both of these movies. However, they are kind of different in their own right, and it's Halloween from 1978 and Halloween from 2007, directed by Rob Zombie. I tell you what, the first one, the original, I was really big into the Halloween movies again in the late 90s. Something with the late 90s, I think it was Scream that really did it for me. Scream was like that movie that was just like, hey, horror movies are cool, so I was like, okay, I'll watch them all.
Bob trying to blend in with society.
Halloween was actually my favorite slasher film for quite a while. The first one, and then I watched the second one, and then Halloween H2O came out, and I was like, this movie's awesome, when it's really not good at all.
No, that movie was so bad.
But again, I was young. But the original Halloween, I think, again, it's from 1978. It's one of those early slasher films, and it just truly it grabbed my attention and and just the fear inside of me. And again, it's plausible. You could have a being who just randomly sneaks into your house and kills you, that kind of shit could happen. And the reason why I also put Rob Zombie's 2007 remake on here is because I love the way that they develop Michael Myers in that movie. The way that you see him as a kid and how fucked up he was, all the way up to whenever he starts to go after his sister. You know, like, that shit is nuts. Like, it is absolutely crazy.
That shit is crazy.
And I think he did it just, like, I truly believe Rob Zombie did the remake justice. I think it's just as good, and in some regards probably better just because of when it came out than the original. I love both of the movies equally, but I tell you what, and I know a lot of people, there's people I've been talking to, because it's the Halloween season, people talk about haunted and Halloween films. You know, it's people have been telling me that they like Rob Zombie's second Halloween better than the first, and to me, I can't watch that movie. Like, I saw it in theaters, and I haven't seen it since. And the first one Rob Zombie did was by far the best, the better of the two, and that's just my opinion, you know.
So, do you like any of Rob Zombie's like solo films? Like The Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses, 31.
Hated House of a Thousand Corpses.
Really?
Devil's Rejects I thought was all right, and those are the only other two. I haven't seen his other ones. I've been wanting to, but I just never got to.
31, 21, 31. I think.
31, I think it is.
Midget Hitler highlighted that entire movie.
About that.
Highlighted the entire movie. The rest of the movie kind of sucks, except for the ending. The ending's all right.
So we're gonna jump to your number 8.
My number. Number 8, I have the Paranormal Activity series, and I'm going to limit it to the core series, 1, 2, 3, 4, not the marked ones and the final chapter, the lost chapter, or something like that. Only because I didn't think they were scary, per se, and I'm all for ghosts. Like, I love ghost hunting. I used to go ghost hunting all the time. The story that they were trying to tell was a very intriguing story. The fact that, you know, like, the mother, you know, basically promised the next born son soul for, like, I think it was money, and then, like, the older, you know, the siblings. It was I like the storyline.
Look, I love Paranormal Activity. It's actually a lot higher on my list than yours. We'll get to where it is on my list shortly, but
looking at my list, it should be higher.
I do enjoy that series. I'm going to talk more about it when I get to my list, but you have anything else to say on that?
No, it's just I'm sure you're going to go into it more than I am, but I like the story. Like, I didn't think it was scary. I mean, it does have its scares, don't get me wrong, but I watched it for the story. I'm a horror slut. I watch things for the story. But anyway, what is your number 8?
My number 8 is Jaws from 1975.
That's actually a fitting noise for Jaws.
It was, wasn't it?
That kind of fits. I could see it.
Look, it's not your typical horror film. You know, you're not going to sit there and when you think of horror films, you don't think of Jaws right away.
It's not dark and you can only see the machete.
But this movie fucking frightened me as a child. It scared me to the point where my carpet in my childhood bedroom was blue. And I swear to God, I'm not shitting you. I was 5-6 years old at the time, but I was like, that's water. Jaws is in there. Fuck. So I would, like, literally be scared on my bed in the middle of the night because I thought Jaws was underneath my bed. Like, that's how fucking scared I was from this movie. And it was just done so perfectly. And, you know, Steven Spielberg, you know, was a mastermind at this point of his career, because there was the intention of utilizing the robot, the shark robot. They were planning on showing the robot through the entire movie and everything, but it had so many mechanical issues that they couldn't show you the shark for, what was it, like 80-90% of the movie?
Yeah,
you don't see the shark.
You only see its, like, head.
But it just upped the ante. It just made it that much scarier, that much more intense, you know. And I have yet to be in the ocean since seeing this movie.
Really?
Yeah, I just, now, one, I've never gotten a chance to go to the ocean, but two, like, I'll never go deep sea swimming or anything like that. That shit's too scary. There's sharks in there.
No, I know this isn't on yours. It just recently came out, 47 meters down or below or something like that.
Yeah, that just recently came out, yeah.
It's basically the same thing, like deep sea diving and like sharks are attacking you and some shit. It's like crazy.
I heard it was pretty bad though.
No, I mean, we were just on the topic of sharks and deep sea stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a horror film.
So that was my number 8, right?
Yep, we're on number 7.
So what is your number 7? I don't know what that was. I guess that was somebody's head getting decapitated there.
That was someone opening a bag of Doritos. I put at number 7 the Crazies remake from 2000 and something.
And
I don't know, because I never watched the original one. To this day, I still thought it was an original movie, and I really like the concept of it and everything. Knowing that there's an original one, it kind of upsets me. But at the time, I thought it was really good. Like, it genuinely scared me. And that's, yeah. Like, it's one of the few films on this list that actually scared me.
I've never seen that entire movie. I've seen bits and pieces of it on TV. I've never seen the whole thing, so.
It's it's super gory.
Isn't it like zombie?
Yeah. Well, it's like super zombie.
Super zombies.
Yeah.
All right.
What's yours?
My number 7. I started Vader laughing.
I was thinking the same thing.
But it is 2017's mega hit, It. Look, it doesn't scare me. The movie, though, is just that fantastic. It is a horror film. It is quite possibly, and it probably should be higher on my list, but these other 6 films that I have here I think are just as good, if not better. But it is such a good film. It's going to go down as one of the greatest horror films of all time.
Yeah, isn't it already the highest
financially
grossing?
It is. Yeah, I mean, financially it's made more money than any other horror film. So it's a fantastic film. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, the dancing clown, fantastic. All of the kids were fantastic in this movie, and I cannot wait for Volume 2 or Chapter 2 to come out in 2019. I absolutely cannot wait to go see that movie. So,
next week when's next? Next week would be Halloween, wouldn't it? We should discuss it.
We did on a couple podcasts back.
No, I meant for Chapter 2.
Okay.
Let's discuss Chapter 2.
Okay.
I mean, it's a Halloween. We might as well make it scary. Ooh, my personal life, my love life, my financial status.
What is your number 6, sir? Some of these sound effects are weird.
That's like me getting out of bed in the morning. Number 6, I have Lights Out.
Okay.
I know it's like kind of recent. Now come at me because I know the movie was poop. It was real bad. But the story that they were trying to tell was, again, intriguing. Like a mother who was... Spoiler. Like a mother who was mentally disturbed after her best friend died in like a orphanage, basically. Well, she didn't die. She was like experimented on. She died during experimentation. Is now like that entity is following her around. And like... when the lights are off, she, can move around. The lights are on, she can't. So, like, her mother's house is always dark, and it's the 2 kids finding it out. And it's a crazy journey. It's an interesting watch. The story takes forever, and then it just abruptly stops with no sign of a sequel, which is upsetting. Like, spoiler, do you care?
I don't care.
Mother blows her brains out at the end of the movie.
Oh,
like, just out of nowhere blows her brains out. And it's just like, really? I invested an hour in this.
Yeah.
It disappointing, and like the movie's poop, but like the story that was trying to be told is why it's on this list, on my list.
My number 6.
That sounds like a crowded bar.
Is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors. Look. Say what you want. Say what you want about the original Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a good movie. I get it. Whatever. It's good. Second one, kind of tough. But this third one, man, like I remember, and it could be because of my brother, because my brother really liked this movie, so he watched this one more than the others. But just the soundtrack is amazing. The actors that are in it are just fun. It's just. I feel that it truly grasped Freddy Krueger better than the first 2 movies. It was just more fun. It's not extremely scary because Nightmare on Elm Street kind of lost its luster after the first one. It kind of became a little more like, what crazy antics can Freddy Krueger do in a dream next? But this one, they learn how to fight back in their dreams. They learn how to do that. And I thought that was so inventive and so interesting to see. I really, really enjoyed it. And, here's the thing. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, he's one of the top 3 horror monsters of all time. Like, he is. Like, the concept of Freddy Krueger, you take a look at things. I was watching it one of the Halloweens today. It was actually Halloween 4. It was on TV. Man, is it a horrible movie. But I'm sitting there thinking, okay, there's a moment where they run away from, they're in town, and Michael Myers is back in town trying to kill people, wreak havoc, what have you. And instead of the cop taking who they're trying to kill out of town and hiding them, they go into a house and board up the house, which somehow Michael Myers gets his way in there.
Because that makes sense.
Because it makes sense. But that's the thing. These horror movies, these slasher films, there's always a way to get away. Just fucking leave town.
Yeah, just leave.
Leave fucking town, and you're away. And then you can set up a trap and eventually kill the person or get rid of them. Yeah. The crazy thing about Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, there's no getting away from sleeping. Yeah. And that's what made his character so much scarier, so much more intriguing and everything like that. And to me, the third one, I think, handles that the best. And that's why I put that on my list above the other two. So, I don't know what you think.
I think his character development is actually super good. Like it's one thing. It's one of those things that like you can't get away from. Like you said, you can't get away from sleep. You will eventually crash. Eventually,
exactly.
Like you can, and it's even crazier that it's kind of loosely based on something that's real, which is even crazier. That boggles my mind. Yeah. But no, it's right up there with like the quintessential three: Jason, Freddy, and Mike Myers. They're the three original OG horror guys from the 80s.
Except for Leatherface. Leatherface was... All right, what's your number 5?
Give me a good Leatherface movie.
Shows up.
Yo, what's up, Velociraptor?
That was Godzilla, not a Velociraptor.
Velociraptor.
So what's your number 5?
Number 5? The first Stephen King movie to take the list, The Shining.
No, it was the first Stephen King movie. That was on my list.
For my list. The Shining. Just because it's The Shining.
Which version?
The one with Jack Nicholson.
Really?
Yes.
That's shocking because I've actually never watched. I think there was a 90s television. I think it was a 90s television version.
That was back with it too.
That's actually considered better than the Jack Nicholson version.
I didn't even know there was a TV version.
I watched the Jack Nicholson version. It is what it is. I'm not a big fan of it. I get why it's some people think it's scary. I want to see the TV version one that came out because, like I said, I've heard a lot of people say that is almost 10 times better than the Jack Nicholson. So maybe one day if I can find it, I'll watch it. So I'm shocked.
You hear us just tapping away on the keyboard.
I'm surprised though that you picked that one. I'm guessing you have another one further up the list.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I'm sure we all know which one it is as well.
Gotcha. Let's see. My turn, I guess now.
No, it's not. That's a that's such a violent shit.
These sound effects are awesome.
That's a violent shit. That's a night after drinking in Taco Bell.
My next one is the 2002 film 28 Days Later. Look, zombies and the zombie. To me, this movie actually started off again the whole zombie genre in the early 2000s. Because after that, we started to see a resurgence of George A. Romero and stuff like that. But this movie is such an interesting take on the zombie virus and how it was a virus, that kind of thing. It was so different, so interesting. It's a British movie, UK, filmed in the UK. I highly recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. Suggest. I couldn't think of words, but no, I definitely say you need to check it out because I think it's when you talk about the zombie genre and stuff like that. There's a lot of good ones, and there's a lot of movies in the zombie genre that I think you should watch. Night of the Living Dead, the original one, George A. Romero. You need to watch that. This is another one, 28 Days Later, and another one on my list is going to be the big one I think that everybody should watch. But yeah, that's my number 5 there. That's my number 5. Let's go to your number 4. Weird. Go ahead.
Switching it up, number 4 is about power tools. I'm gonna throw my list up here. I'm gonna put the Belko Experiment at number 4.
Really, I have yet to see that. Is it a horror film?
Kind of. It's not really. It's more suspenseful. But I guess I should have put that in my suspense list. But I don't know. It was a good movie. It's an interesting premise, and the ending leaves it open for so many different ways they can take that if they so choose to make it a series. Like, bust it wide open. Damn, nature, you scary.
I'm definitely hoping to get to check it out sometime soon.
It's interesting. It's a very interesting watch.
Yeah. Anything else on it?
It plays on the human psyche.
Okay.
It's a play on the human psyche. I won't spoil it for you because you actually want to watch it.
Yeah.
So no, that's all I can legitimately say about it.
So my number 4 is look, in the late 90s, early 2000s, we got a whole bunch of weird paranormal psychological films thanks to M. Night Shyamalan and some other people.
The Village.
Oh, God, I hate that movie. The Sixth Sense is not my next one. Sixth Sense was a good movie. However...
Did you know Bruce Willis was dead at the end of the movie?
Ending was spoiled for me before I saw it.
It was spoiled by me.
It kind of sucked.
It was spoiled for me by Lonely Island.
But here's a movie where the ending was not spoiled for me, and this is my number 4. It's called The Others. It is a Nicole Kidman movie. Holy fuck, dude. This movie, back in 2001, not only scared me shitless, but
it put the shit back in your body and scared it out again.
Dude, my mind was fucked. I was like, what the fuck? There's a legit mindfuck in this movie. I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to give any spoilers. If you've seen it, please don't tell other people, because it's one of those movies that if you don't know the big twist, if you're not going to pick it up, and if you do, kudos to you. I'm good at picking up twists nowadays because of movies like this. I'm telling you, it is one of those movies. It's just that good. And the premise of it is essentially there's a wife and her 2 kids are living alone in their house while their father and her husband are away at war. All right, and the boy, I believe it's the boy, and maybe both kids. It's been a while since I watched it. Have a disease where they can't touch the sunlight, or they get sunburn really easily. So the house is always closed up with curtains and everything like that. Well, the little boy starts to hear and start talking to voices and other spiritual beings, and it just gets crazy from there.
That sounds like it's knuckin' fun.
It's so good. And again, I can't believe you've never seen it. I'm pretty sure I own it, so I might let you see it one time.
Cool. Let me see it all.
Excellent movie. Excellent movie. So let's go right. What is your number? Yeah, I don't know what that was.
That was we dropped the mic.
We'll try this one.
I wish you would have saved that for my number 1, because that would have went so well with that.
All right, what is your next one?
Number 3, the play on Lovecraftian writing, The Void.
I've never actually seen that either.
Well, I'm not gonna say it's super low budget. It had to have been a low budget film because there's 4 actors. Maybe a lot of extras, and it focuses around this town. It's crazy. I don't even know how to describe it. It's such a good movie though. You could take its lore based on like the Cthulhu mythos and universe around Cthulhu. It's interesting. It's definitely a good watch. I don't think it is kind of scary, but nothing scares me anymore. It's just whatever.
All right.
What's your number 3, Bob?
My number 3. Now, let me tell you. This is possibly my favorite zombie movie of all time. Back in 2004, a young director by the name of Zack Snyder.
Man, I wonder who he could be.
Remade a classic George A. Romero film called Dawn of the Dead. Now, Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, was the follow-up or the sequel to Night of the Living Dead, not Land of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. George A. Romero filmed both of those movies in the greater Pittsburgh area. Mm-hmm. So, us being from Pittsburgh, me being from Pittsburgh, I always loved watching those movies because I was like, hey, I live around here. This stuff was filmed around here. Even one of my friends' dads was one of the bikers in Night of the Living Dead. So,
that's kind of cool.
It's kind of interesting. Things are interesting in that. Now, when Dawn of the Dead came out, again, like I said, in the early 2000s, we really started to see a boom for the zombie genre coming into the fold. And like I said, I believe it started with 28 Days Later in 2002. And in 2004, I think it hit the best moment of the zombie genre in film to date with Dawn of the Dead. I mean, it was such a good movie. And the visuals, the focus on the characters, the character arcs, the comedy. There is a little bit of comedy within the movie, the horror aspect of it. It was just done almost perfectly for a horror zombie film, and it's to this day probably my favorite non-comedy zombie film today. So yeah,
because your comedy zombie films are
they're
1 and 2 well, up in the top 3.
Yeah. So, that's my number 3. What's this? Boo. You guys are number 2. We're getting close to 1.
And at my number 2, I have It. 2017. Because it is a genuinely good film. Did the original justice, it did the novel justice. Minus the giant turtle, but whatever. That's neither here nor there.
Giant turtle?
Yeah, Maturin.
No.
But you've already talked about it. I don't have to kick the dead horse.
Yeah.
It's it. If you haven't seen it, get out from underneath your rock and go see it.
My number 2.
I will kill you.
Is easily the top horror scary vampire movie to come out. And it came out in 2007. It's based off of a comic book series called 30 Days of Night. Now,
that's in my honorable mentions.
This movie it's so good. Not only the visuals of the zombies, number 1, I think are fantastic. They're very menacing and scary looking, away from your typical, Anne Rice, look of vampires. Did I say zombies? That's zombies.
Yeah,
vampires. Vampires. Away from your Anne Rice vampire look and how they're very regal or very beautiful beings. They kind of got away from that, and I really like that because when you think of something scary, you don't think of somebody that looks like Lestat or Louis. You think of somebody who is menacing, who's scary, who can literally kill you just by jumping on you and biting your neck. So that's one thing that I really loved about it.
Any woman.
The second thing I really love about this movie is the story idea. And I know it comes from a comic book series, but think about it. This takes place in Alaska, where every year they do have 30 days of night where the sun never comes out. That means if vampires can't come into sunlight, where's the best place for them to go one time a year? Alaska, because they have 30 days where they can just wreak havoc on a town or two. And that's what they fucking do. And the suspense, dude. I remember coming out of that movie in 2007, and I legitimately was like, holy fuck, I never want to go to Alaska, because that could happen.
Holy fuck, I don't want to be in the dark ever.
Exactly. How old was I? I was, 18 years old, 19 years old at the time. I wasn't, scared, oh my God. But it, literally, there was a lot of suspense and everything like that. And again, Josh Hartnett, that was, the peak of his acting career. And you really haven't seen him do much since then, but it's just an excellent film, and I highly, highly recommend, if you enjoy vampire movies and you enjoy being scared, or even just a different take on vampires, check this movie out, because it is fantastic. Oh, one more thing. Also, how they don't speak English. They don't speak English. Which I think is, again, fantastic, because it just adds to that otherworldliness to them, which is awesome. But that was my number 2. So finally, with your number 1, you wanted me to do something with your number 1. Let me see if I can find it again.
Find a film like real playing.
Yeah, I don't have one. I will pick that one. Close enough.
Pterodactyl screeching in the background.
That's exactly what it was. Pterodactyl scream.
Hey. Got one. 1 for 19. And at my number 1, I have the Sinister series. I couldn't speak that one. Bob's over here doing some kung fu shit. You just kind of fly out of the midair. Stop, man! You're creeping me out. Fucking Blackie Chan over here.
Well, you did it too.
It's because I am. But no, I have the Sinister series at number 1. It's because I like the series. It's a good story. It focuses around. I can't remember. It's a demon, but if you what?
Nothing. You're fine.
No, what the fuck? Stop. But it focuses around a demon, and he lures one kid out of a family, and he eats their soul, but the kid becomes undead, so the kid kills their family, and then as when the police go back to the crime, and it's gruesome too. Like they're on fire, they drowned. But when the police get to the scene, they find the whole family dead, obviously, but one kid missing. So it's been a thing. And Ethan Hawke's character in the first one is a true crime writer, or a crime writer, I guess I could say.
Mm-hmm.
And he moves to the house of one of the victims, and he finds all the old rills. And little does he know, he unleashes the demon, and so on and so forth. His family dies. His kid goes missing. Fast forward a couple years to the second one, and one police officer that was a main role actually kind of like saves the day in the second one. They don't necessarily kill the demon, but they kind of like shoo it away for the moment being, which is what the third one's going to pick up.
Gotcha.
But it's a good story. It's a very interesting story. Like, I didn't know justice with that synopsis, but you know, it's a good series.
All right. Well, my number one is one Colton already talked about, and that's the Paranormal Activity. Now, it's just the first one, not the second or third one. Look, that movie came out in 2007. All right, so again,
oh my God, has it been 10 years already?
19, now I'm like 19, 20 years old. Around 2007 is how.
It came out 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I saw that movie, and holy shit. I mean, I'm going to admit this here, and I think I have in the past, but I legitimately was scared. I legitimately could not sleep with my lights turned off for about 6 months. Like, that is what the movie did.
Bob's a pansy.
And it's because of my belief in the paranormal. It's my belief in otherworldly beings and stuff like that. I get the movie is hokey. I get that. Like, yeah, there's moments in it that are funny because
they're awful.
They're bad. But the fact of the matter is that I've experienced shit in my life.
He's been to Vietnam, guys.
And I truly believe in the paranormal and what the paranormal can do and can bring to this world. So that shit scared the hell out of me. And there's never been a movie that has scared me as much as this movie did. And that's why it's my number one. Look, I know in my past 9, I talk about good stories and what it's meant to the genre and stuff like that. But this movie legitimately scared me to the point where I could not sleep with my lights off. And that, to me, is a sign of a good horror movie. That's when you know a horror movie is doing what it needs to do. You know, and that's why I don't like watching horror so much anymore, because a lot of times
it's just shock value.
It's just shock value. It's jump scares. It's gore factor. You know, look, I didn't put Saw on here. I didn't put Hostel on here. Why? Because they're not scary. They're not good horror films. They're just
Shaw and awe.
Exactly. Shock and awe.
There we go.
You know, to me, when you can truly get into somebody's head and screw up their psyche, and you know, even have a good story, because like you said, the Paranormal Activity has a good story.
It's a very driven, like, story-driven thing.
When you have those two things combined, yes, you can have shitty moments in the movie. Look, It 2017 is a fantastic film. There are parts in that movie where I was like, come on, that was a little cringeworthy, but it's still on my list because it's a fantastic film. Same thing with Paranormal Activity. It has its moments where it's just like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, that movie not only entertained me story-wise, but scared me shitless, and that's what a horror movie's supposed to do. From top to bottom, it's supposed to entertain you and scare the shit out of you.
Do you own it?
I do not own it, no.
Why not?
Because I don't even want that thing sitting in my house.
I own both of my first number one. Actually, think, Colton, use your goddamn words. I actually own every single movie on my list.
But with that, I mean, I've got nothing else. It was our top 10 horror films. I hope you enjoyed it.
You don't have any honorable mentions?
I mean, I do. You have some honorable mentions?
I have one.
What is your honorable mention?
As Above, So Below.
As Above, So Below.
It is basically a retelling of Dante's Inferno. It's a modern day retelling of Dante's Inferno. This group of people go into the catacombs under Paris, and each level they go down to another circle of hell, and each circle someone dies based on, you know, the sin that they, taken. So it's an interesting story.
We've already talked about my honorable mention. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That started off the slasher genre for the most part back in the 70s. And while they've consistently tried to regain that glory of Leatherface and all the different Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies that they've made. Probably what have they made, like 40 of them? There's a new one that just came out.
Yeah, the new one that is literally laughably bad.
Yeah, they've tried so hard to get that feel back, and they just haven't been successful doing it. But the original is one of those films that just, you have to watch it. If you want to watch slasher films and understand how they've gotten to where they are today, you have to start with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You just have to. If it wasn't for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you wouldn't have a movie like Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yes.
Because that you can tell, you can feel the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, feel from that movie.
Inspiration.
Yeah, the inspiration and stuff like that. So you wouldn't have your Halloweens, your Friday the 13th, those movies. They wouldn't have happened if it was not for Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You wouldn't even have your holiday Halloween.
I don't know about that. Again, so getting back to it, I hope you all enjoyed hearing our top 10. What are your top 10 horror films? These are just horror, ones that scare the shit out of you or just have really good stories. Let us know in the comments below. Again, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, The Remote Control, at The Remote Control on Twitter. You can go to our website, theremotecontrol.com, www.theremotecntrl.com. And again, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, YouTube, all those fun things you subscribe to us at. So with that said, I've been Robert Slavinsky. With me was...
this guy.
And I guess we will talk to you all later.
Holy fuck, that noise took fucking forever.
Take it easy, everyone.